Today's guest is Dr. Sam Banks and Phil Andrews from Chattanooga Skin and Cancer Clinic. They're good friends of mine. I'm looking really forward to it. So we normally don't even clean the office. We just leave it like this. As you can see, I've got 2 jobs here. I've got a job there, got a job there, a job there, a job there, 2 outside. See, with the office business, you go to a specific room, whereas I have to go to a location.
Right. Oh no. Yeah. But ours isn't that clean. I mean, we can't clean it up before people come. They clean it up every night. But
Well, mine I just leave it messy.
you should do the intro when it's messy, though.
I should. So y'all came all the way how long did it take you to get here?
4 to 5 minutes.
Did you pick him up on the way?
Yeah, but he makes me go slow.
Did you had to drive out to pick him up?
Yeah. I went into the hood, picked him up, and made it here.
Now you live on what, Missionary Ridge? Is that
On
what
the
they call
side of Missionary Ridge
on the side?
in Shepherd Hills.
Shepherd Hills. Is that you been there a while?
Yes, probably 30 years.
19.
70s. That's 50 years. Math
30
is
years. 30 years. I've been there since the 70s.
Was that a different location then?
I don't understand.
I mean, was it
No, it's the
like
same place.
was it high end, real high end at that time,
I
or
don't
new
think,
subdivision?
No, it was built way before we ever moved in there.
So you bought the existing house.
Yes.
You ever stop and get a fish sandwich at that crossroads?
No.
They sell those fish sandwiches. Like if you're going down Shallowford Road and you get to that, that 4-way stop there is named something that's like downtown. You know what I'm talking about? You go down Shallowford, you go past the grocery store,
Hang a left.
hang a left.
Right. Follow that around. Right. There's the 4 corners there.
What's the name of that?
I don't know what those 4 corners are. I know there's a Hell's Angels, club there on the corner.
Yeah, there is.
That's what I'm
There
talking
is.
about. What's the name of that? It's like Copes or something.
I don't
Cops.
I know there's a.
It may be. It's on every building. I've noticed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never noticed. I just know they have rent your wheels there. You can rent
Yeah.
wheels for your car. Those big
Golly.
24-inch. What a business. I mean, there's a niche
They
market.
say if you can go into any of the real poor areas and find out what they're doing, that's the next big thing. Because necessity is the mother of invention.
So, cause mostly just crime that neighborhood.
Because, yeah.
That's the next big thing.
But you can go over the hill down to.
Yeah, downtown.
Dead
Downtown,
ends,
yeah.
Right. Dead ends almost in Park Ridge Hospital.
That's right, Park Ridge Hospital. Now, if you lived in that, was that the first? Were you originally from Chattanooga?
No, I grew up in Atlanta.
Oh,
And that was our second house in Chattanooga.
how old were you when you came to Chattanooga?
About 33.
12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. About
You
30.
look good. Your
Thank
color looks good.
You're not hitting on them, are you?
No.
Okay, good.
You've got a tan.
I do.
Yeah.
I was born with it.
Did you go to Florida?
No, I've been working. I painted yesterday. but-
Outside?
Painted outside yesterday. But,
What'd you paint?
our porch outside just looked nasty. It's exposed. The building was built, but it's all exposed concrete.
Yeah.
So I just painted it, sealed it up.
Both porches?
Like a good
Or
way.
one big porch?
Yeah, you know those porches on the side
Yeah.
where we have all those people?
Yeah.
There's like a little roof that goes out on there that just always gets nasty. So I pressure washed it and then sealed it and then I painted it.
So, is business good?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good business, good.
Is a lot of people got skin cancer?
Absolutely.
Do more people have it than realize it?
Certainly.
Will it kill them, or are they okay?
It depends on which kind of skin cancer. There are two types that are very deadly, melanoma and Merkel cell. The basic squamous and basal cells are very common, probably the most common type of cancer that we have in the world, but they're not as deadly unless you ignore them for years.
Years and years?
Yes.
What about the melanoma?
That can do you in pretty quickly. But there's some new drugs out for it now that are showing a lot of promise. The melanoma is a very immunologic tumor, and
What does that mean, immunological?
means it's your body. Phil, you know that.
Oh yeah,
That's a tough question.
that is a tough. I was going to say, I want to hear the answer on this one. I think, yeah. I mean, melanoma was a lot more deadly than it is now, just because the treatments are. Jimmy Carter had melanoma quite some years back, and he didn't kill him, and it was in his brain. And
What do they do when you get it? Cut it out?
No, you cut it out of when you can, but these new drugs affect your immune system to help your immune system fight the melanoma.
Yeah, that's immunotherapy. That's immunotherapy.
Yeah.
That's what Bill Motes had,
boom, man.
and he's tough as ever. And Jimmy Carter, same way, right?
Yeah.
So that's totally new, isn't it?
Totally new.
Is that what brought that on?
They've been doing research for
Been doing
years.
research forever. I mean, I think
Trying to
everything
find-
brought it on.
What?
Everything brought it on. I mean, I think they get a little information when I think the AIDS epidemic came through, and they learned a lot more about viruses. And
So AIDS might have been the thing that promulgated it?
well, some of the research they spent a lot of
Yeah.
money on research.
I think the AIDS research also helped develop these new COVID vaccines.
That may be the best thing that came out of this COVID. Immunotherapy.
Where they've learned.
So it just helps your body fight.
Right. It uses your body's defense mechanisms versus just a chemotherapy, which just kills everything.
Would that be like a steroid shot?
That would sort of be opposite of a steroid shot. A steroid shot probably suppresses your immune system,
Right. Exactly.
and you feel great. It's anti-inflammatory, so your joints don't hurt. Everything feels good, but then it also makes you more susceptible to infections and other opportunistic things.
But immunotherapy, I guess it sort of helps your body be able to fight that thing.
Better, sure. And it started several years ago with just one, with gene research. Remember the
BRCA
BRAF?
genes. Yep. Well, yeah. BRCA gene, I think, from breast cancer
Right,
got it started, and then it kind of worked its way from there.
right. So it's been a building blocks. They find one thing that leads to another thing, and so
That's why they had these research papers that they read, and somebody comes up with this piece, and somebody comes up with that piece, and somebody else comes up with this piece, and they finally.
right.
Have you seen a bunch of stuff since 1970? Was that when you went into practice yourself when you was 33?
Yeah. I moved here in 73.
Well, before that, you worked for somebody in,
No, I was in the military,
what branch?
Air Force, and then I went to the University of
Did you fly?
Yes, but I wasn't a pilot. I was a flight surgeon. So I flew with the pilots and wrote reports on how to make their jobs less stressful when somebody's shooting at you.
Get the shooting to stop.
That was
What was one of the keys to that?
well, the Air Force, as well as commercial planes, want to keep their planes moving 24 hours a day. The planes don't make money sitting on the ground, and the Air Force had the pilots that would be at different stops, and one crew would get off, and another crew would take the plane somewhere else, and another crew would take it somewhere else. Well, we were in Dover, Delaware, so if you left Dover, we'll say at 10 o'clock in the morning, and you flew to Alaska, there was like a 5 or 6 hour time zone change. I don't remember what it was now, but it was more than 3 hours. And so when you got to Dover, Alaska, you'd been flying for 7, 8, 9 hours, and you were ready for supper and you were ready to go to bed. Well, and when you got to Alaska, it was still breakfast time, and it was bright lights out, and it was hard to go to bed, but you had to get some rest because you had to catch the next plane through the staging group. So there were a lot of things to write about. The other thing, they did a lot of dumb things. That they allowed smoking in the cockpits in those days, and smoking inhibits your night vision greatly. It takes the oxygen and gives you carbon monoxide, and you don't see as well. So we had to write reports that they finally got rid of smoking in the cockpit.
Mainly because of seeing?
Yeah, I think that was probably the impetus. But they also didn't want you sitting there smoking around the fuel of the plane. You could get a big explosion.
You remember when people would when they had company over, they'd worry if they had enough ashtrays out.
Yeah.
I mean, that made the most sense, didn't it?
Oh, good.
My wife used to have a sign on the door that if I smell smoke, you'd better be on fire or something.
I had a house when I lived in Florida, and I didn't smoke, but it had an ashtray that looked like an ashtray. In the middle of the ashtray was this big chrome ball about this big around with one of those big lighters in it. Mm. But it said no smoking on the ball. But it said, so people would inevitably pick it up and try to use the lighter to light their cigarette, but it had a battery in it. It would shock you. So you would drop the ball. But everybody would, I had it there for years, but
that was the reason it would shock you and you dropped the ball.
Yeah, you dropped the ball, but it said no smoking right on it. But everybody would pick it up to light their cigarette, and it had like 5 D-cell batteries in it, and it hurt.
Are you shaving your mustache different now?
Yeah, every morning because I have my glasses on.
You got a little more.
Well, I don't have my glasses on when I shave, so it always looks a little bit different.
You're going to get one of those guys that gets it lower and lower.
Exactly. Like be pencil thin, then it's gone, and then it comes back. It's random how it happens.
You had it for a long time, then you cut it off. But it was longer.
Right. Yeah, it was
I think longer made you look a little younger.
Yeah. Anything that makes me look younger, I'm up for. But it didn't when COVID came. And
that's right, the mask.
I had the mask, and it had hair coming out all over the place. It was a little mildly distracting even for myself.
Was that a massive? How many employees y'all got now?
Close to 90.
Yeah, I was going to say probably pushing 100.
3 locations.
Yeah,
3 locations.
In Chattanooga, we have in the 60s, and then Cleveland, another 15 or 20, and in Jasper, a few.
Yeah.
So
how's Jasper doing?
It's dragging. It's okay. It's a small location, but the people that work there like working there, and so it doesn't eat anything. It kind of pays for itself a little bit.
Is Brandy there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Brandy's there, and then Jamie, she goes. I think she goes a day a week. Brandy's there 2 days a week. And I think we're going to try to recruit another doctor, so hopefully we'll get him out there on Friday mornings. That would be nice.
Does that get more customers because you have more doctors? Do they bring, or is it just able to handle the people?
I think it's just slowly growing, but I think when you take a doctor and put him out there, a regular board-certified dermatologist, I don't think Jasper has one. Dr. Chung has an office out there, but I don't think he has a dermatologist that's in-house. So I think if we get a doctor out there, at least half a day a week, it gives some legitimacy to the clinic, and people can schedule for Friday or whatever,
and then it helps to know everybody likes to say that's my doctor, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right now, there's not a dermatologist in Jasper on a regular basis. I think Dr. Chung probably goes once every couple of months
or something. I don't know.
And then right now we don't have anybody there. So if we get a new physician that will go, he will put him in Jasper at least a half a day a week. Mm-hmm. So,
What's a good location in it? It's right off the interstate. It's close to everywhere.
Right. It's just that it's in that hospital, and that hospital, although it's not in the hospital, it's in the the office plaza next to it. But I think folklore goes a long way in that town. So I think that hospital had a bit of a bad reputation. So I think we got that a little bit for a while.
What was that?
It's called Grandview.
Grandview. What was the deal with that?
The patients that we get refer to it as last view.
Because the hospital was a little rough.
Kind of like Sky Ridge was Die Ridge.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
But I remember when I was in my 20s, that was a popping place, wasn't it?
Yeah, I watched, I remember when driving by there a couple times, it was a great building, and then you go up to it, and it's abandoned,
It was a state of the art. At one time, it could have been on that show Abandoned.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we moved in, I think there was only one or two possible tenants in that building. It was 4 floors tall.
Yeah, didn't you walk through it with me one time?
I walked through before it was anything.
It was almost spooky. It was just such a fantastic, it was 4 stories, and, it was already 20
You went
years
inside
old.
that room, and we weren't supposed to go inside
yeah.
the room.
Yeah, we went in all kinds of places we weren't supposed to go. Then the lady found out we went in
Yeah.
there.
Boy,
The next
she
time
got
we went,
mad.
everything got locked.
And
I
Phil
mean,
blamed it on me.
Oh, yeah. But the building's 20 years old, and half of it has never been developed.
No, and it's just perfect. It's elevators,
Yep.
stairways.
Yeah, it's a nice building.
Got
It's a
parking
nice.
lot.
It's a nice parking lot.
I don't know who owned it before Park Ridge bought it. You think it was a private community hospital?
Yeah, I think it probably was. It probably started off with some investors, and they thought it was going to just blow up.
If you'll notice, out there in the parking lot is a little metal structure, and it says bus pickup.
Mm-hmm.
So they were
Wow.
at shuttle pickup. So they're either shuttling people from another hospital to there, or from there to the main office, because it was a big deal at one time, and I guess it will be eventually. Won't healthcare always catch up?
I don't know. And again, just a personal thought of mine. I think that more and more doctors' offices are moving away from the big office complex. I think it's difficult for some people to go on the 4th floor of a parking garage, get there, 7th floor down the hall to the right to go see their doctor. I think it's more of a storefront situation now, where if you go to the doctor's office, I think people like to pull up in front of their doctor's office, just go in and leave.
Yeah, it makes it easier. I think Erlanger's parking garage is horrible. I had a bad knee, and I had to park probably a 10-minute walk from the hospital to get.
Yeah.
Have you ever been into that parking
Oh
lot?
yeah. I went there several times, and you almost have to have a map to know how to get around. What was wrong with your knee?
I tore a ligament in
What
it.
did that feel like? Because I think I've got one. I'm a hypochondriac,
Well,
right?
put your foot up.
Well,
on the
if his knee is hurt,
Yeah,
you're gonna limp.
that's the truth.
Oh yeah, no, I picked up on that so well.
Why is
I
that?
don't know. That's interesting.
You know-
I remember talking to you about people being sick, and the next day you're asking me if you had it.
Yeah. I met this guy one time that was going to build he had won the lottery, and he was going to build a plaza. And I went out and met him at this place, and we're sitting on the table, and we're going to walk outside, and he limped. And I started limping, and he turned around and saw me. He thought I was making fun of him. It was just hypochondriac. Why do people have that? You're not like that, are you?
No, but maybe it's just sympathy.
Yeah, I was looking at that nice phone you've got there. That's what I'd like.
Yeah.
That's a neat phone. It still rings. If you call it, it rings.
Okay.
So when you came to Cleveland, what part of Atlanta were you from?
I was near what they called. I was near Emory, is the closest.
And what's that area called? Is there a name for
It's
it?
not Buckhead,
Claremont.
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 I knew it was like a section.
Were you smart enough in school to be a doctor, or you just worked hard? Which one?
I think got lucky and worked a little harder than some of the other people. Phil and I were talking about the first exams you take in school, and he was telling me his daughter did not do well in her first exams, and then now she's doing fine. My first exam in medical school, everybody's out partying, and I went with them. I made a 50.
50.
50.
Where was this medical school at?
That's in Augusta, Georgia. And I decided right then and there I could not go out and party. Those boys were smarter than I was, and I had to work harder and stay away from the going to the movies and having a few beers the night before an exam.
Yeah, I think
What'd you do? Buckle down?
Yeah. Then, that's what I did.
Did you go to the Air Force then later?
Yeah, right out of medical school, I went into the Air Force.
But you'd already graduated from medical school. Most people would go to Air Force to get their medical school.
It can go either way.
Which is easier?
Probably what I did, because when you go out, when they draft you, you go in as a captain, versus if you go first, you probably go in as a corporal or a private.
Yeah.
So.
Did you see any war?
Yeah.
Where at?
Vietnam.
You were in Vietnam?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was never in any actual fighting, but I got to see plenty of it. We were in Dover, Delaware, which was the morgue base. So we would fly supplies over to Vietnam and fly body bags back. So it was pretty serious stuff. You certainly remember that.
So you were actually in Vietnam, at least to pick stuff up?
Yeah. I'm considered a Vietnam veteran because I spent, at least a few days each month for 12 months. That's how you're considered a Vietnam veteran if you have any what's called in-country time during the month. So I spent at least 12 months, or at least 12 days in Vietnam.
So you were, 22 or 26?
Probably 26.
Because you'd gone through medical school.
Right.
Why'd you go to medical school?
My dad owned a grocery store, and he said, "Son, this is a good business for you."
Medical.
No, he wanted. He said either you're going to work with your mind now or with your back for the rest of your life. So I tried.
Did you believe him?
I did. I saw how hard he worked in a grocery store. He was back in those days in Atlanta. The big chain was A&P.
A&P.
And they would, he could only make a living by working before they opened and after they closed, and on Saturdays and Sundays. He basically worked like a 7-Eleven. Now I don't know how.
So what did he have, like a? He didn't work at the A&P, right?
No, he had a grocery store that had the 7-Eleven type hours where he would work till 11 at night.
That's where they get the name 7-Eleven.
Yeah, they were open.
Where'd they get A&P from?
Atlanta.
Where's that?
Boom, yeah.
What?
The A&P grocery store was around forever, but it's Atlanta Pacific. But there's some trivia for you.
So the 7-Eleven was because
Open from
the
7 to 11.
chains were open till 7, and the only business you could do was between 7 and 11.
Yeah. Can you imagine starting a pharmacy or a grocery store today in this environment? I mean, how do you compete with the big chains that buy in bulk?
How would you do it?
I wouldn't. I'd have to go to work for one of them. I guess you could do it if you went to a small town where but then you would still work your rear end off. But
You go to a food desert, or somewhere where it was underserved.
But
Still hard work.
When my dad owned a grocery store, I would work there, and I was a delivery boy on a bicycle and a stock boy when I wasn't delivering. So he took credit and he delivered. You don't see that today virtually anywhere. No credit.
But you have a business sense about you. Or Phil does one.
Phil does.
So do you think that came from your dad, or is it strictly Phil?
I got some.
Because I know Phil's got it, but
Yeah, I think Phil's sort of the business driver in our office.
Phil may be a genius.
Maybe.
Maybe he just didn't know it. I don't show it. I know
Nobody
that.
knows it.
Where do you
It's,
get
it's
that?
well hidden. It's well
Where do you
hidden.
get that, Phil?
My mom. My mom was always up to something. So
What was she like? A business or always?
she always had restaurants, you know, and everything was cash, and you know she was careful with
From
money.
where?
She was up New York.
But she lives here now, right?
No, she lives in Florida. She's you know,
Oh.
she lives in some mobile home park and 90-year-old woman kind of thing. But she still buys, you know, trailers when the neighbor dies. She'll buy it and fix it up and resell it. So no.
Yeah.
So yeah, she always had something going on.
Was she of Indian heritage or was that your dad?
So my mom was.
What was your dad?
I think he was a Polak. Yeah. I think that's what he claimed. I don't know what he was, but so no, but my mom is still, she's funny. She still does it.
Chattanooga Skin and Cancer Clinic has 3 locations: Jasper, Chattanooga, and Cleveland. They truly care about their patients, their employees, and their relationships. I know this from personal experience. Give them a try. They're no problem.
You had a restaurant down there, right?
Yeah, we still do. I'm a silent partner in one down there.
What does that mean? You just don't say nothing?
You don't say nothing. Yeah. No, it's just a friend who needs some money, help him buy in. So I was like, well, I'll help you buy in.
Do you hope to make money off of it or just kind of, it's all good?
It's all good. He was, actually the restaurant was being sold. He'd worked there forever. And it was, the guy who owned it was kind of a friend. And my bud was just, it was a beach bar. So he worked there and he was just laid back. So I think the owner just didn't have enough confidence in him that he was going to be able to sell his restaurant to this guy and that he'd be able to run it. So he brought some other people in that the owner had more confidence that they had turned some old restaurants around and stuff like that. So my bud was getting kind of pushed out a little bit. So I learned from, you know, people that I'd hung around with, money talks. So at the last minute, they didn't have enough cash. So we kind of came in and bought our way into the deal. So, but he was getting divorced and he had young kids and stuff like that. So just gave him some money and he ended up buying it, and that was 15 years ago. So
How's that doing? Good?
still doing good. It's still doing good. You know, we got paid back all our money. So now, you know, there's a they opened up another restaurant, you know, maybe a half hour away, and it's got a marina and some other things. So that's my retirement job. I'm going to sell ice. There's a big ice machine right next to the dock where you empty the ice onto the fishing boats. It's like, yeah, there you go. I'm going to sell ice. That's going to be as complicated as it's going to be.
But you've got you're kind of the business sense of this operation.
Yeah, it's probably everybody. We all kind of pitch in.
Because you're a PA rather than a doctor, right?
Nurse practitioner.
Nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
All right. What do they call that? NP?
NP. Yeah. It's had 1,000 names. It was an ARNP, an NPC, RNC, but I think it's just NP now.
Could you have gone to the medical doctor just as well?
No, God no.
How come?
I probably got too much ADD and all that good stuff. We didn't have any money. I think I almost went to DO school, went and signed up and took all my tests and stuff like that back when I was living in Florida. But
What do you mean we? You mean your family?
yeah, kind of. We didn't have any money, so my parents owned a restaurant, like a diner type thing. So
Yeah.
we didn't have any money. So
Did you work at the diner regular?
oh yeah,
What'd you do?
cook. Yeah, you didn't. If you want to see your family, that's what you had to do. I mean, my mom worked. You know, she got everything ready, and then you kind of just became a short order cook kind of thing. But you know, when you got home from school, you cooked until
What was the name of that restaurant?
Beaver Lodge.
And where at?
It was in Athens, New York, which is kind of right off the thruway near Catskill, New York. So it was great at the time. You know, it was back in the
What type of people ate there?
Everybody
Was it like the old fort?
It was. Well, it was actually on the highway on this road called 9W, which used to be the main drag between New York City and Albany until they put the thruway in. So it was kind of, but it was more of a truck stop. Had a great big parking lot, and truck drivers came. And stuff
Was it
like
a
that.
standalone building?
Standalone building. It was actually an old motel.
Did she own it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was just, and it was a restaurant. Then somebody converted it into a house, and then we bought it, converted it back into a restaurant, and I think since then it's been converted back into a house. But we made a lot of money for everybody when we were growing up. It was all cash.
What'd you cook? Hamburgers?
Hamburgers, everything.
Three meat and three?
Meat and three. Yep.
Did you have like a menu?
Yep. Had a menu, but
Was it laminated?
I think it was on the paper napkin on the table.
I mean, it wasn't a laminated. It was literally just something she had printed up.
Back in the 70s, yeah, I think it was just a laminated.
So you'd work there after school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had to work. Mostly clean. I mean, that's what you did, because by the time we got to school, it was 5 o'clock. You'd work dinner. It'd close at 8, and you'd have to clean till
After high school?
After high school. Yeah, clean till 10, or even when I first started going to college. First couple of times I went to college, it was same thing. It's
What
community
about
college.
Friday nights?
Someone else worked on Friday nights. You got unless you needed money.
Yeah.
Then you worked.
Did you get salary or tips or both?
Or you
No,
just
$3
cooked?
an hour.
$3.
So you weren't interacting with the customers?
No,
You were just cooking?
I just go.
What'd you, like eggs?
Oh yeah, eggs in the morning. I mean, we'd go through
Did you get up, what time did you get up there in the mornings?
later than everybody else, but
Because you're an early
6.
riser.
Yeah, probably 6. I think it probably opened at 6, so you had to be there. I think my Aunt Charlene, who worked there also, she would get up a little bit earlier. But
Was that your mother's sister or your
my mother's sister. Yeah, so she would get up there, but no, you'd make eggs all morning and ham and eggs until lunchtime, and then, basically cheeseburgers and whatever mom had made, and then you kind of just put it on a plate and made French fries for it and put it out. Sandwiches and all the diner stuff.
If you go to a restaurant now and it doesn't quite taste as good, do you complain or do you say, or do you one of those that's, I know how it is, I'm not complaining?
Oh no, I'd never, complain. I mean, unless I think service is probably. What about you? Nothing.
I
Just
never
take it.
complain. I'm too familiar with how things get mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. I
Yeah.
don't complain.
You don't complain any?
No. And since COVID,
And that might be because you were in the same business. Y'all were actually in the same business, serving the customer
Yeah.
at
Still are.
odd hours.
Still are.
Still
Except for
are.
odd hours. The hours are better now.
Yeah.
Did you ever think you'd have such a successful business?
I never thought about it, but no, I'm very surprised how successful we've been over the years.
Did you buy somebody's practice out?
No, I did not.
You just walked into Chattanooga?
No, I came in with a partner, Robert Thompson, and then after a couple of years, he passed away.
Where was he from?
He was from, trying to remember.
Maybe in Carolina or something.
No, he died in Carolina.
How'd you know him?
He put an ad in the paper and I answered it. I think he was from Winchester, Tennessee, and he was a very nice man. He was a type of guy that I came in under contract, which is a very small salary for today's world. And after a year, I looked at it and I said, gosh, I'm making nothing compared to, what I could be making. So, and I had a 3-year, 5-year contract. And I talked to him. He said, well, let's just tear the contract up. You're a 50-50 partner. So that was a nice
He didn't know who he was dealing
That's the
with.
way to get. That's the way to get a partnership. Negotiation skills.
Where was your first office at?
It was the Medical Arts Building on Macaulay Avenue. I think it's owned now by the church. But
Do you remember those days going in there?
Yeah.
You miss them ever?
Yeah, it was some nice memories. There was the elevator in the building was not an automatic elevator. It was an elevator operator named Carl Worthy. And he was just a prince of a guy. He used to wear this, I don't know what flavor it was, but he used to wear this cologne that you could smell as soon as you stepped in the elevator. And he was very friendly and nice. And you don't have any elevator operators anymore. You close that door and
Pull the handle.
yeah, let you off. We were on the 9th floor.
How long were you there until y'all moved into the new office?
We were there for about 4 or 5 years. Then we moved into a building on Lee Highway and Hickory Valley Road where they intersect. There's a CVS there now. And we just outgrew the office. And as we were outgrowing it, Phil came and started talking. And
Well, how did he come in the picture?
I don't remember. Well, I think you approached me.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I worked for Dr. Chung in Dalton, and I'd worked there for about 5 years, and had actually met Sam and Dana. They came down to the office, and I think we were doing veins back there and stuff like that. So just
you
kinda met
were doing veins at their place?
No, at the other office when I was in Dalton, and so I was in Dalton. My wife did not like Dalton at all. It just wasn't her place. So she was just always driving back and forth to Chattanooga. So we moved to Chattanooga, and then I was commuting back to Dalton, and then for whatever reason, just kind of one day, I cold called him, said, "Hey, I'd like to start working in Chattanooga." And he said, "I can't hire you because
Doing what?
during
Yeah.
dermatology. That's what I've been doing for 10 years or something at that point." So I just said, "Well, I want to do it in Chattanooga." He said, "I won't hire you because you work for John." And I was like, I'm coming up here. There's another doctor was called Skip Fenewald, and I knew Skip also. So I kind of interviewed with both of them. So I just cold called him. And Sam said, "Well, let's go meet for lunch."
Do you remember that?
I do that.
Why'd you go eat lunch with him?
We were hungry.
We were hungry. Yeah. So it was just like a Tuesday or something like that. So Skip Fenwell actually kind of talked me into, I told him, I said, my wife's not happy in Dalton, blah, blah, blah. So Skip had actually built an office for 2 providers. And then I talked to his wife, Brendan. He didn't really want another provider, but he did build an office that had a second doctor's office in it and enough exam rooms to hold 2 providers. So he had never thought about taking on a nurse practitioner. So he's the one that kind of got me thinking, if you want, it's here for you. So I went up and interviewed with him, but he wasn't very busy. So I think it was the same day I went and talked to Sam. He said, "Let's go to lunch and we'll talk about it." So we went to some Thai food place. I remember it was yesterday, and I know right where it was. It's long gone. I don't know what it is now, but anyway, I know the building because I drive by it and always think about it. But it was probably an hour from the time I came in, and we'd already known each other. But anyway, so they serve us this Thai food, and Sam starts eating off my plate. "What's this?" He goes over and he just kind of gets right in. He starts, "That's pretty good," eats some. And that was it. I was like, "Okay, we're good."
Why is that? Why is that?
It was just that comfortable. It was good.
We've always been comfortable together, hadn't we?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like we're just okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
Oh yeah, I think no. Well, when we did our research on when we were going to build our office, and we asked everybody, and who should we get to help us in Cleveland, and nobody else's name came up except for yours. So somehow we were just lucky enough to find the few friends you had in town and ask them. I mean, what are the chances of that?
What are the? Well, I paid them.
I know, but I mean, you weren't going to pay them that much. But so
I don't know if you were in the car, but I was in the car with Charlie McDowell, and you were working on the OB.
On Dr. Snowman's office, and
Right.
y'all came by.
We came
and
by.
you was in the car.
Yep.
And then the next time you came, y'all were with the realtors and all that other stuff, and I was thinking, well, I can tell who was the boss. I could tell you were the boss, so I started talking to you.
well, Sam doesn't talk that much. So
That's right.
I mean, it wasn't like if anyone was going to talk, it's like.
But you got one of the nicest wives I've ever met.
Thank you. I'll tell her you said that.
Why is that? Do you think has she always been that way?
He softened her up. He
You
softened
think
her up.
that's it? Was she from Atlanta?
No, she actually was born in New York.
How'd you meet her?
Her family moved to Atlanta. So she was from Atlanta since she was about 13.
So you met her in your early 20s?
No, I met her in teenage years. She asked me to a Sadie Hawkins dance or something.
You went?
I went. That was my downfall.
I just want to make sure that they get this on tape that he didn't say Denise was the nicest girl they ever met. It's okay.
No, she is the
too
nicest
late,
girl
Too
I've
late.
been-
Too late. Now she's going to see this. You know.
Well, what
It's
it
okay.
is she was the nicest lady I met. Your wife's the nicest girl I've met.
He's backtracking. And in lane 2 is Dee Burris doing the backstroke.
Don't hit your head on the wall.
Exactly.
What do you think is the next big thing to skin cancer treatment?
The next big thing. I think the next big thing is going to be that we're going to realize squamous cell cancers that we cut out that we thought were cured aren't.
Were they going to still spreading or still growing?
Yeah, because I think we cut out, historically, at least in mine and your careers, I think we've cut out a lot of squamous cell cancers, and we think that they're cured. They could be cured for, years and years and years. You just never hear about it. But if they ever have squamous cell cancer, they don't come somewhere else in their lung or their blood. They don't come back to us. They go to wherever, and I think there's going to be some way to tell more about the genetics of that cancer. And they're going to be like, no, it was the same squamous cell cancer you had in your skin 10 years ago, or vice versa. They're going to have squamous cell cancer in their lung. Things are going to be going along, and we're going to find out that there may be some connection between these same kind of genomes on this cancer.
Do you think this immunotherapy will go in the body and maybe cure everything at some point?
I think that they will get specific immunotherapeutic drugs to hit specific areas. I don't think this one pill cures everything, but I think that to me is going to be the forefront of the new frontier of skin cancer dermatology, is not having to cut out all these things, but to be able to treat them with immunotherapy.
What is that, like a drip or a shot or a pill?
I don't think anyone knows.
I think it's
I think it's
all
all,
of the above.
yeah.
I mean, you got to get it in the body somehow, right?
Yeah, but it's some of them are pills and some of them are shots and some of them are infusion drips. And I think along the same line is they're now developing tests that when you have a problem, it will tell you which drugs work best on that problem. Instead of just, okay, you've got this type of psoriasis or skin cancer, we'll give you this. And if it doesn't work, we'll give you something else. If that doesn't work, we'll give you something else. They're developing tests that will tell the labs, or the lab will tell us, okay, for his tests show that a specific drug will work better than other drugs. Because these drugs are exorbitantly expensive. So if you experiment on 3 or 4 of them before you hit the right one,
Plus lost time.
expense and lost time. And the drugs all have side effects, so you may get a side effect from one of the drugs that don't even help you.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem.
Do y'all worry about getting skin cancer?
I don't.
I don't get out in the sun, so I don't.
If you go to will you go to the beach?
I do.
What do you worry about skin cancer?
I don't get in the sun. I sit in the shade. I mean, I'll walk on the beach late in the morning or late in the evening or early morning, or I'll sit under an umbrella and read, but I don't sunbathe at all.
But people sunbathe. People years ago, the farmers worked out in the sun. Is that why they wore the long sleeves?
Well, I think if they were smart, they wore the long sleeves.
But why, the old farmers always wore long
Yeah.
sleeves. Is that so they didn't get skin cancer?
I would
Or
guess-
would they have known about skin
I
cancer?
don't know if they thought about skin cancer. They just thought about burning.
What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, I think they were just thinking it was cooler. Once you get used to that type garment, I think it was cooler for them. I do think there was some folklore that probably went along with it, that people that protected their skin didn't get sores. I don't think they knew all that, but you go back quite a ways. But if you look at farming, through the last few hundred years, hats were were represented in all those groups.
And you don't
So-
think it was because you won't get skin cancer or melanoma, it's so you won't get a sore.
Right, or whatever they considered that,
The culture has changed, in I don't know what years, but we'll say the early 1900s, being fair and pale was beautiful. If you were tan, you worked outside, and that meant you were a common laborer. But then the California culture came in.
In the
Gold.
30s, mid 30s?
I don't know the.
It came in with the advent of the automobile. There's some theories out there that with the automobile, especially in the northeastern area, if you were wealthy enough to have an automobile, you could travel from areas to the beach, and then you had enough money. So then you would get tan at the beach, and you would come back to these rural areas of upstate New York or Pennsylvania or whatever with a tan. So that's kind of, there's some literature out there that reflects that that's the first time a tan started to represent that you were
Wealth.
more wealthy.
Or successful.
Because you had a
or
car,
smart. Or
right?
smart.
You had a car, you could travel distances, you could get a tan, and then with the
leisure time.
leisure time, and then with the airplane, same
Yeah.
thing. Once the airplane came in, you could fly to, which was expensive. It was expensive, but you'd fly to California, get your tan, you'd come back.
Which took away the pasty look in the mid 30s.
Right. So
So prior to that, pasty was in?
Yeah.
pasty was always in.
Yeah. If you were tan, you were a common laborer. You worked in the fields.
You weren't smart. But later on, if you're tanned, you are smart.
Right. Just the way things changed.
But now it's going to be what?
It's a hybrid. I think there's still, there's people out there that aren't really too worried about it, and that's okay too. But I do think I think the culture of the tanning bed culture, at least in my career, the tanning bed is less acceptable as it was maybe 20 years ago.
It was a big thing. There was tanning beds. I don't know of a single tanning bed place now, do you?
They're still around. I mean, I get some patients that come in that work, but they used to have, videos, tanning bed, and gas. I mean, I remember that combination where you could go get you rent your videotapes, you could go to the tanning bed
That's
and
right.
get gas. That I always thought was quite
I went a few times. Did you?
well, I got videotapes, but I didn't I didn't need the tan.
You didn't go to the tan?
And I may have needed gas, but I know that the tanning bed was not. It was not in there.
There's tanning bed. Would you say that if you had to go outside, what SPF would you use?
Well, if I go outside, if I don't put on anything, if I just go to the mailbox or back. But if you think about the amount of time, I would use something, to get back to the original question, I would use a 30 or above, and you need to put it on 15, 20 minutes before you go out so it absorbs into your skin and it doesn't just sweat off. But, if you think of the amount of sun you get, just going to the mailbox, getting in and out of the car, going to the grocery store, just walking across the parking lot, you probably, even if you try to be careful, you probably get 30 minutes a day anyway, maybe more, just doing little incidental in and out things.
Mm-hmm. Is that bad for you or good for you?
I would say it's probably more bad than good because, the big thing about sun is vitamin D, and you can certainly take a pill for that. And there have been a lot of studies that show that the sun will decrease your body's immune system. There's something called Langerhans cells that in your skin that multiply into different types of cells that help fight immunity, that help and they're destroyed by sun. So you want to, I would avoid it and take my vitamin D.
And a pill.
What do you think, Phil? Same thing?
Yeah, I think I wear hats. I'm a hat guy. I mean, if you ever see me, we have a house in Florida, so I mean, I have hats everywhere. But I wear a hat. I think sunscreen's good, but I don't think sunscreen is that great. In that if it was great, we wouldn't have a job for one thing. But I think people don't put on enough, and then I think it wears off in a couple hours, and they think they're protected because they put on sunscreen, 5 hours ago. So now they've got an hour or two of completely unprotected sun exposure.
But is that bad? Is it that bad? Are
Well-
our bodies so fragile that scares us?
Well, you're kind of asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
I mean, I would tell you not to smoke. I'm not
Yeah.
a lung doctor, but
Yeah.
I know to just tell you that. So I think from our industry, I think anytime you can bank not being out in the sun, there's probably not a reason not to. There's probably no reason, no matter your skin type, not to wear a hat if you're going to be. It's cooler, it's just and not to protect yourself from the sun.
Well, whatever the old timers did is probably the best thing. It's just that now we have sunscreen that aids in that.
Right.
They always wore a hat.
Yeah.
They always wore long sleeves.
That's correct. It's sort of like filling a glass up with water till it overflows. You start as a kid getting a certain amount of ultraviolet light, and every year you add a little bit to it, and then if you lay on the beach, you add a lot to it, and eventually it overflows. When it overflows as we see skin cancers, wrinkles, dark pigmented spots,
Yeah.
rough scaly skin. There are a lot of things other than skin cancers that the sun precipitates.
Phil doesn't have any on you. You don't have any sunspots.
I don't have any yet because I'm young.
Yeah.
Once I'm hit my 30s, I'm
Yeah.
thinking I'll probably get a whole bunch of them. But
Well, some people have a natural ability not to develop it. People that tan easily, but we see skin cancers even in black people, and we see pigment changes even in black people.
So you see a lot of skin cancer. So because you wouldn't say, you always think, what's light-skinned people? They need to wear
and it's
sunscreen.
mostly in light skin people.
yeah, it's not a lot, but it does happen.
Right. But I
In
think-
other words, if you're black or dark-skinned, you don't need to think you're immune.
That's correct.
That's
You can
correct.
still get skin cancers. And I've seen over the years, I probably see not, I'm just throwing out a guessing number, maybe in a year I might see 500 to 1,000 skin cancers in Caucasians. I might see 2 in a black population.
or Hispanic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've seen melanomas in young Hispanics. I've seen basal cells and melanomas in young Caucasians, but they were sunbed worshipers. The youngest I can remember is like 17 or 18. You get enough sun, it's going to damage. The sun's like a big X-ray machine. It's putting out all these wavelengths. Some of them tan your skin, but some of the wavelengths you get damage the DNA in your cells. It causes them to multiply in abnormal ways.
Now in the mornings, every morning I've got that Lacombe lotion with SPF. Lancome.
Yeah, there.
And I put it here. I put it all on my face, especially here, and my ears.
That's
good?
why you stay so pretty.
That's why I say it's pretty. It's
I-
expensive. It's
Yeah.
very expensive.
Yeah,
but you're worth
Lancome is
it.
a good brand, though. I don't know if it's worth the money. Consumer Reports did. It's a good. You
Good
can't go wrong.
Which ones as well?
Well, I don't know, because you can look up in Consumer Reports, and I think the last one I read showed that for your money, Walmart's Equate brand was the best.
Equate for the money. Did it have SPF in it?
Oh yeah,
Now I've got aftershave lotion that's got SPF in it too. If I shave in the morning. But now your wife, Dana, she gave me some stuff for your hands. She said keep your hands looking young, and people will think you're young.
yeah. Hands give it away a lot of times. Hands and necks.
SPF here or just lotion?
SPF. The sun breaks the blood vessels in your skin, and so on your neck you very commonly see this reddish, flushing look. People that get a lot of sun.
I tell my patients once in a while, but one of my favorite studies was a study done by med students in Miami, but they were had to do a paper for something. But anyway, they set up a tent. I think it was in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and they set up a tent and they gave people this really expensive sunscreen, and they measured how much tan they had, and then they sent them out in the sun, and they told them to put on this really expensive sunscreen, and they brought them back in 3 hours, and they measured how much sun exposure, how it had changed. And then the next week, they broke down, and then the next week they came back out, but they gave out cheap sunscreen, and they measured how much tan people had. And then 3 hours later, they measured it again, and they tabulated the results. But the light was a scam. It had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
They just weighed the jar afterwards.
Yeah.
And people that they told them it was expensive sunscreen only used a little bit. People that they told them it was cheap sunscreen, they used a whole bunch of it. Both groups got it for free. It had nothing to do. So when you talk about Walmart equate sunscreen, yeah, because people because they use a ton of
that
it.
may be the reason, right?
Because they don't have any guilt.
They don't have any guilt.
Yeah, they're just like,
because that Lacombe, I'm like,
oh yeah, they're probably not getting anything out of it.
but you know,
The placebo effect.
it sure does feel better.
Yeah, again, it's
What
placebo.
kind do you use?
I use spray sunscreen. Only kind
What
because I
kind?
don't like it on me.
What kind?
Walmart or whatever.
Just spray.
Whatever Denise picks
SPF
up.
what?
SPF 100, as many as I can get. 'Cause
100?
Yeah, because 30 is all you really need in a lab, type situation where you put on an exact amount, you let it sit for 20 minutes, and then they expose you to light, and they can measure, is this enough protection? That's fine. But people only put on about a quarter of the amount that they need. So people that are putting on a 30 and they think, okay, I'm getting a 30, they're not. They're getting a 7.5 because they put on such a small amount.
Now I've got lips. I've got a chapstick with this. I put it on my lips every morning also.
You must have a long time in the morning.
Well, I've got
No wonder why
down
you-
the routine. It takes 2 minutes.
Well, no wonder why every time I meet you, it's at lunch.
Yeah.
You're probably just getting out of the house.
But I ride bicycles and I spray my face, my shoulders, and put that SPF on my lips.
Good.
Lips are a big thing that make you look younger.
They also get skin cancers.
yeah.
Sunscreens are volatile substances. They sweat off, they rub off, they evaporate in different ways. And so no matter what you start out with, as Phil indicated, pretty soon you're down to very little.
Oh yeah, I get people come in.
Yeah,
there.
if I put on SPF in the morning, dry here, and I ride my bike of an evening, that means I don't have any on.
No, not after.
But you think you do,
I think I do.
which gives you a couple hours without. That's the kind of that weird time where you're like, well, you thought you were protected, but you weren't. That's my beef with sunscreen is that, there's nothing that lets people know, okay, it's worn off.
Now, some of my cycling gear, it'll advertise that it has ultraviolet light protection, UV protection.
And that stuff's pretty good because even if it gets wet, if you get a T-shirt wet, you can see right through it, and you get that stuff wet, but it still blocks the sun's rays.
This UV stuff.
Yeah.
What is it about the fabric that makes UV?
I think it's the weave.
Right, it's a little tighter, and I think some of it reflects a little bit, but it means they tested it and they were at least thinking about it.
That's all it was.
And along with your placebo setup, if you think it has SPF, maybe you'll pick that shirt up and wear it versus the other one.
That's
So I
right.
think it's marketing, but it probably, so in order to put it on there, they had to do some
But
testing.
don't be fooled in thinking that you're protected because you put SPF aftershave on in the morning.
Right, because you don't have any idea how much you put on.
Yeah.
Because the volume of application means something. It's a great idea. It's a good start. But are you getting the SPF 30 or whatever they call your shaving cream if you wipe most of it off or wash most of it off or put on just a little bit of your Lancome on there? You're like, okay, I'm good for 2 years.
Yeah.
It's like, that's probably.
Yeah, they've done studies, and the amount you put on is very crucial. in the studies they've done, and I don't remember again the exact amount, but you get a 4-ounce bottle. I think it's supposed to last you about 3 treatments.
Right. So if you get
Golly.
if you get a 4-ounce bottle of sunscreen, and they say it takes 1 ounce to cover half your body
That's for
for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So you should be using 1 bottle of sunscreen per day in order to get that 30 SPF, which probably is enough sunscreen if you're out on the beach and you're, but people have especially expensive bottle of sunscreen could last you 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, because you're
the way
not
you're
gonna use
using
it,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. How
Now,
lo-
if you put some on your shoulders, if you don't put any SPF on, are you going to get skin cancer for sure, or it's just a buildup of time and time and time?
I think it's the buildup.
if you get run over by a bus when you're 45, you've made
But
it.
I mean,
You didn't get any
it's the
Getting skin cancer. I mean, look
Yeah.
at the plus.
But I mean, it takes years and years.
Usually, but they've shown that one severe sunburn increases your risk of developing melanoma like tenfold. When I first started out,
I'll have that tomorrow.
I first started
Now,
out.
I'll
now,
be coming
now
down
he's
the-
got melanoma.
I'll be
Look what you
coming
did.
down the-
Look
You got
what you
any
did
dark
to him.
spots?
I'll be coming down the field
Oh
tomorrow.
my gosh, he's going to be there in the morning.
Boy, y'all have got a good operation, don't you?
I think so.
Is Ann the key to that, or is it Phil?
And well, I think it's. I mean, everybody kind of pitches in. I mean, there's nobody. I'm not the last word in anything. I would tell everyone I'm all hat, no cattle. So you can come to me and ask me anything, and I'll give you a chance on. I'll give you a chance on answer. But
All hat,
I'm not
no
the
cattle.
Yeah, I'm all hat, no cattle. Yeah,
What does that mean? You were just playing like it?
yeah. I mean, I'll try to give you the answer. If it stops there,
He looks
great.
like the chief, but he
That's right. I'm the big chief, but I got no Indians. Yeah. So I mean, I think everybody does. I think it gets moved up
Now you're in Cleveland most of the time, right?
one day. Dr. Banks and I go on Wednesdays.
You are known for the guy that can sew up a spot and it will never be detected. That's your claim to fame.
That is my claim to fame. And actually, I don't do it as much. I mean, we just have some really great nurses that we've trained through the years. I think Dr. Ligon, when he was with us, and I think early on, probably the first decade that we were all together as a group in Chattanooga Skin Cancer, we spent a lot of money and time training nurses how to do a really good job. So, very rarely I go and we mark them all. I think if you know the geometry of how to close the skin and you don't have too big of a hole to start with, it's something that it can be done. But I think
What
we
does
take
it
more
do?
pride.
Pull the skin?
Yeah, kind of moves it, just stretches it around like stretching a sweater.
No big deal.
Well, it's a big deal if it's happening on you.
Is there a way to stretch it that
There's
makes
a way to stretch it to make it look better. If you know that, then the rest of it skin mends itself quite well. If you don't know how to stretch it or how it's supposed to be stretched, then it looks a little bit more noticeable.
Y'all have the most business in I don't know how far of an area, right? I mean, Chattanooga.
No one really keeps track, but we do. Yeah. Dr. Chung has a bunch of offices. I mean, he has a pretty big business, and I think Dr. Susong, he's in Hickson. He has a nice business, got a good clientele. So we like to. I mean, we're busy. We've got a big building, and we're busy. We've got a lot of good providers, and we have some new ones coming on. So I mean, it looks up.
You got a new doctor coming?
We are supposed to have I think he's supposed to show up on Tuesday.
Are y'all having to stay open on Fridays now since you're so busy?
So Friday's by choice, kind of. I mean, every day's by choice. All of our providers in our office work the days they want, pretty much. It doesn't work that way. If you have to have Tuesday's your day to, take your kids to school or whatever, so some people take off on Friday, but I work on Fridays mostly so the nurses get some extra hours, but Fridays are a good day. A lot of people have off on Friday.
I think when the new providers come, they will be assigned to Friday. They won't get that alternative
Right.
to take off. So we will have more openings on Friday.
Y'all are like it takes like a month to get in, 2 months.
It varies. I mean, I think sometimes it will be like someone will be like, well, I've been waiting for a month to come in, but I know that yesterday I worked and I wasn't that busy. So
Right.
I think sometimes they'll say it takes a month to get in, but they wanted a Tuesday, after three,
After three,
or
and-
something
yeah.
like that. So that kind of, if you've just got a wide open schedule, it shouldn't take that long to get in. We try not to because somebody has a black. What happens if you had a black mole on your back and you called in and said, "Hey, Phil, I can't see it for a month."
Yeah.
You'd be sleeping out front until
Yeah.
till the doors open. So
Yeah.
I think you can't have someone hanging out there really long with something that can worry about. I think if you have a cough or something you can't see, that might be different. But when people have a rash or something, you got to come in. I mean, there's just nothing because you're just looking at it all day. It's still there, still there.
On the courthouse square at 30 2nd Street is the law firm of Logan Thompson Law. Since 1965, they have served the legal needs for the good citizens of Cleveland Bradley County. If you've got a problem, they're no problem. Give them a call.
So now, is there anything in your business that's a real emergency? Throw the lights on, get them, or is it all, everything is okay?
No, there's some emergencies, some severe allergic reactions, I would say, and then there's some blistering diseases that are probably considered an emergency. Pemphigus and
Stephen Johnson's.
Stephen Johnson, which is, and
What's that, a disease?
it's an allergic reaction.
It's
Sounds
an
like a
allergic
name
reaction.
of a person.
I would hope it would be a name of a person, but no, Stephen Johnson. It's a blistering allergic reaction.
To what? To like sulfur or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sulfur. I think it can be from other things, but sulfur is what I think we see the most of it. I haven't only seen it a couple of times in my career, thank God.
What's the most easiest thing you see besides sunspots? Like eczema or something like that? Or
Well, I don't think you can. It depends on the eye of the beholder.
Right. I think after you've been doing this as long as we have, I don't think any of it's. I think the diseases are easy. We know them. We know how they work. We know the medication that goes with them. But then they have to be applied to a person, and everybody's a little different. Some people want a pill. Some people want a topical medicine. Some people are going to actually use the medicine you prescribe. Some people, So I think it's the art form is to find the right medicine for the right person that's going to take it, that they can afford, that fits their lifestyle, that gives them the results they want in the right amount of time. Yeah. So some people want a perfect result. Some people just want to get better. So I think the diseases are easy. Right. The application is tough.
All right. It doesn't matter how great a medicine is if they can't afford it. It doesn't do them any good.
is there some people that would need a medication but they can't afford it, so they just don't take it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine that being the case.
Every day.
But that's the case.
That is the case.
That is the case every day. There's somebody out there where we'll write a prescription, we'll think it's going to get covered, we'll get a thing on our desk maybe a week later that this medicine isn't covered by their insurance, and there's not another medicine. We're like, well, let's just go back to the old treatment. It wasn't, it was the next best thing, but they couldn't have.
When maybe that might have been the thing that maybe did better
Made the
job.
difference.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
What about what is eczema? What is that?
I just define it as just an inflammation of the skin.
Flaky?
It gets red, itchy, people scratch it. Just inflamed, raw, itchy skin.
A lot of things fall into the category. It's a bushel basket kind of diagnosis.
Eczema.
There's a lot of things that fall into eczema. I mean, I can't think of a broader diagnosis in dermatology.
And then they break it down into different categories of eczema.
Right.
And that's what the newer treatments are doing.
Is there one treatment for that?
Not one treatment for all. The newer treatments are getting very good, though.
They cure it quick?
I don't know if they cure it, they control it quick.
Right. Nothing cures it.
Nothing cures eczema.
No, it's more of an inherited genetic.
Like dry skin.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see people and I think, oh, they got dry skin, so that's sort of some eczema. It's
Someone,
like,
you could probably, someone would call it that, but I think there's lumpers and splitters. So yeah, everybody lumps it into eczema, but it's kind of our job to split it up a little bit and say, well, this is, is this ichthyosis, which is kind of a genetic dry skin versus eczema? Or are you allergic to something? You're allergic to laundry detergents, dryer sheets, fabric softeners, soaps, lotions, whatever.
boy, that gets complicated.
It gets, because again, you're like you said, medicines. Then you got to put it on that person. They wash 2 times a day because they have hygiene rituals that make them wash their natural skin oil off, and you got to combat that. Or they don't.
So let's say somebody's got OCD and they wash their hands 70 times a day.
What have I told you before?
So they're washing some of the natural oils off?
Right.
Yeah.
And the soaps are irritants. All soaps, even the ones that are considered mild, take the natural oil out of your skin and leave it undefended. The oil helps repel chemicals that you come in contact with all day, pollens and dust and polishes and so forth. So the oils are good for your skin. In fact, it's probably better not to shower daily as you get a little older.
You're in luck.
That's right. I knew they were all going to come
What
around.
do you take? Like maybe every other day or something?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how things go back to the way we were raised? If it gets hot, put on a hat. Mm-hmm. If you don't get sunburned, mm-hmm. put on a shirt. Take a bath once a week, which it may be ridiculous, but I mean,
works.
Yeah, it works.
And now we have such, hot water is just available everywhere. I mean, hot water heaters are better and more efficient. Yeah. So people love hot water. Now they got endless hot water, which also is kind of abrasive to the skin. Just strips off the oil. So people get these new.
Do you take hot showers or cold showers?
Mostly hot showers. Oh yeah,
But that
it depends on his wife.
Exactly. Mostly cold showers. I had one a couple of months ago. It was very memorable, but mostly cold.
Just so we can tell this story. Remember where I went to that July the block party at your house, and I go to the bathroom.
Oh man!
And I got locked in the bathroom. The door lock wouldn't open, and for like 45 minutes or 30 minutes.
Oh, it was So we had just finished remodeling the house. We only lived in it a couple of months. Yeah. So we're having this party, and there's a few hundred people there.
Oh yeah,
including the contractor that had kind of helped us remodel the house.
That's before they knew me.
Yeah, before. So. You called someone from the bathroom, didn't you?
I called my wife because she had never been to your house either. She didn't even know where I was at.
Yeah. Was she there at the party?
She was there at the party.
Right. So so she was there. So he called
his
wife.
She said, "I don't know where you're at."
Right. I'm in the bathroom.
So I couldn't get out.
Mm-hmm. And the best part about it was, so the house we had bought from somebody else, from Vicki Gregg, who was the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield. So she had these locks flown in from Germany or something. So there were these German type locks, and he was stuck in there. So I kind of checked through the door. Are you okay?
And it's just a powder room. It's not a big bathroom. It's just a commode.
So
just a commode.
Right. Yeah. Just a commode.
Yeah.
So it was So they were like, I was like, hold on. Don't cut the lock. I don't know if I can replace it.
What's the funniest thing is, as soon as I got there, Whitesnake was playing. Mm-hmm. So they said, "And ladies and gentlemen, Whitesnake." And I told my wife, I said, "I'm going to go to the bathroom before they get started." Mm-hmm. So continue on.
Yeah, so they were going to cut the lock. I was like, well, hold on. Are you safe in there? You're safe in there before we just tear the door up and all this other stuff.
They had screwdrivers and hammers.
Oh, yeah, it was horrible.
But by the time I got out, they said, "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you." And the whole time, there was like an hour involved.
Yeah, oh no, it was a long time. And there were so many people. I mean, the little tiny bathroom.
It was embarrassing.
It was hilarious. Yeah, and then I kept kind of wandering in, just checking on the door because I was like, if they ruin this door.
You know, I'm getting ready to build another building for a person, and I'm refusing to put pocket door locks because that could happen. There wasn't nothing wrong with that lock.
Nope.
It was an expensive, nice lock. It just that once that lever goes over, once it goes down, it doesn't take anything for it not to be able to come up.
Right. It's just a.
It's just a bad idea.
Yeah. So it's the door still is a little bit beat up.
Yeah.
It's still scratched up and
My wife's got film of she videoed people trying to get it loose.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to get it from her.
Yeah. I was just nervous. Yeah.
Are y'all both glad to be in Chattanooga?
Yes.
What do you like best about Chattanooga?
I grew up in Atlanta, as I said, and I really enjoy Chattanooga. It's like a little Atlanta without all the problems. I don't know if that's a good explanation, but if I want to go to Atlanta, I can get my car and be there in under 2 hours. But Chattanooga's like a little oasis in the middle of a desert, especially since they've gotten liquor by the drink and the restaurants have flourished.
Liquor by the drink. I can't. That's why
You
I'm
live
there.
downtown,
Yeah, we live downtown.
above the.
It's Agave and Rye now, so we
Yeah.
live downtown.
They changed it. They changed.
Right. That's yeah. It's above
You ever
Agave
eat-
and Rye.
you
It's got a
ever
little
eat-
bathroom in there without a lock on it anymore.
You ever eat that place, Maple Street Biscuits?
I do.
Boy, that's the best restaurant.
I've never been there.
That's
Well,
is his cord making a noise?
A little bit.
So that Maple Street, that is the best food I think I've ever eaten.
They close in between. Like they're and so half the time I've gone there, they're closed because I think they like
They're
Close at
closed
2 to
so
4.
much I quit going.
yeah, same thing with me.
You just have to by accident.
Right, you have to buy.
Where's it at?
So it is right next to Five Guys, isn't it? It's kind of right on that corner.
Yeah, and
Downtown or
Downtown.
it's
Fourth.
it's on Chestnut.
Yeah.
Chestnut
Fourth and
and Chestnut
Okay.
or Maple.
no, it's
No,
on,
it's not. That's what confused. It's Fourth and Chestnut, but they've got the best food you've ever eaten in your life.
yeah. They've got it's
What are they?
it's they got a lot of biscuits.
Biscuits, yeah.
They got your chicken biscuit and they got your sausage biscuit.
Egg biscuits.
Yeah,
Okay.
but again,
I
they're
mean,
just
it's really good.
It
I
is
mean,
really
it's
good.
Perfection.
yeah, all low calorie, all health food. It comes with a vitamin. But again, I have a hard time going there just because we don't know when it's open and when it's not open. So it's been there a long time, and they do a bang up business, despite the the hours thing being a little bit different than I'm used to.
Yeah, I just quit going because I can't figure out when they're open. It's like it's.
Do they have seating or is it takeout?
Seating,
That's seating,
yeah, they
yeah.
got inside and outdoor.
And when you go in, they ask you a crazy question.
Right.
Like,
That's
what's your favorite something?
right. And isn't that how they get you when your food's
Yeah,
done?
but I don't know why they can just look at you. You're
Yeah, I think that's their catch. You're
They
right.
got real good Cokes and stuff.
Okay.
It's really good.
And biscuits.
And biscuits.
Yeah.
What do you do on weekends, Dr. Banks, of the evening? It's like Saturday night. You stay home or you go out?
Usually stay home.
Don't go out?
Not very often.
You travel a lot?
I used to, not much anymore.
So you got any hobbies?
Guns.
Guns.
Got your guns.
Got my guns.
Working.
Working.
Well, you go to a driving range or a shooting range?
Yeah. I don't do that anymore. Since I've had my health issues, I've just been trying to get back in shape. I do a little exercise and rest a lot.
What was it you had, that ablation or something?
I had a pacemaker that put in that punctured my heart, so I started bleeding a lot, and they had to resuscitate me, and it was a mess.
I remember when it happened. I remember it happened. But you were okay. Nobody ever thought there was any problem, did they, Phil?
Oh, everyone was freaking out. Yeah, but I mean, it just was. He was supposed to go in for a 2-hour procedure. It's like Gilligan's Island. There, he was supposed to be out the next day, and then they were like, "Well, I think anytime the word "oh, they punctured his heart"
Yeah.
comes up, I mean, for non-cardiology people, they're like, "Well, that sounds serious."
What about to a cardiologist? Is it like nothing to them?
Oh, I think it's probably impressive to anybody because it's an unforeseen event that can kill you. So I think even the cardiologist would be overly concerned.
Right. They might have acted like, well, yeah, that just happens
yeah.
sometimes. But I'm thinking that night when they were having dinner, they were still thinking about it.
Right. I wound up in intensive care for
Yeah.
5 days.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it was tough on the practice too because we're all in it together.
Do you know? Yeah, that would have been a problem. But now Tusa, he calls. People rave about him. He calls He must have a real good bedside manner.
He does. He calls every patient. I used to do that too when I was younger, but now I just don't do it.
If you're in there around 4 o'clock, he's calling people.
Mhm.
You can hear him from a distance.
Yeah, it's very good. People appreciate that.
Well,
I don't like to talk on the phone that much, so I have a,
well, you can't keep it up.
Mhm.
It's hard to be practical, right?
He's been doing it a long time. Been with us for 10 years. He's been calling everybody. I think I don't know if he calls less certain things or not, but
I think he calls all his biopsies and surgeries.
What about now the lab? That's where Arlette and not Chip. What's the other guy?
yeah, Chip and Colton.
Colton. Yeah. They stay real busy down there. I know Arlette really likes working there.
Yeah, we like Arlette too. Yeah. She's a hard worker.
Hard worker.
I remember when you were building our building, I would go over there and the men would be sitting there smoking a cigarette, taking a break, and Arlette would be sweeping. Never sitting down.
Now she ran some kind of a race this weekend and won first place. Isn't that what she said?
Yeah, she dressed. She sent me a picture of her dressed as an earbud, but I'm not sure. Did you see the picture?
Yeah, she sent me. It said she was dressed as an earbud. I don't know.
But
if she
not
was
for
running.
the race, though, right?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
for the
I
race.
For the
think,
race?
yeah.
Oh, that's even better yet. I'll have to look for that.
Something.
I think I've got it with me.
See if you got a picture of it.
I don't know what in the world she was doing, but
What's the best eczema medicine that you can think of? What's one of the better
Dupixent.
ones? Dupixent?
Dupixent.
Dupixent.
There's Rinvoq now, and there's a couple of. There's a new one out. Sotyktu.
Is that her?
Oh, that's sad. Yeah.
Hey, Gwen, get this. That's Arlette dressed as a.
earbud.
Hey, I appreciate y'all coming.
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
I love you, man.
Yeah, I love you too, baby.
I appreciate everything you do for us.